Back live tonight here on In Focus, as I mentioned earlier on, the new mayor of Ekurhuleni, Dr. Nkosindiphile Xhakaza, says he will hit the ground running, particularly in addressing service delivery issues. He introduced a new era in administration when he delivered his State of the City address, introducing a service delivery war room during his address. He's with us to tell us a little bit more. You can weigh in on our conversations tonight. 072-110-5584. Drop us an X at Newzroom 405. Good to have you back, and thank you very much for coming on. You presenting 6 pillars informed by the Growth and Development Strategy 2055. At the key of that is a delivery of quality and sustainable services. What's your yardstick for what you measure as quality?
Well, I mean, we have, let me greet you and greet the viewers at home. And thank you very much for having us. We have service delivery standards that we must live by. And they are, well crafted, they are consulted with communities, and they do indicate, the turnaround times that is necessary, for you, or that is expected for you to resolve a service interruption, be it is waste that is not collected, if the communities have actually reported, a reference number is generated with certain standard, with certain qualities that is expected, and it is tracked. And our responsibility really is to ensure that we monitor and oversight that those standards are being met and not compromised. Yeah. So basically that's what we're talking about, we have to, ensure that we put up systems, we monitor those systems.
Yeah. People would like to say the administration, the various municipalities, but generally, even if you talk departments, you like to do what they call kicking for touch, right? You always put something ahead of delivery. You already know what the standards are. You already know what you need to do. People want to see lights, people want to see water, people want to see you deal with leaks, people want their refuge collected, and so on and so forth. And then you announce a mayoral imbizo. Why?
Well, I mean, we're talking, one is a war room. War room basically says we want rapid intervention. It means the mayor is hands-on to ensure that there's accountability. Ordinarily, we put it at a depot. We leave the depot managers and the technicians to deal with, with the delivery of services. But if we've got systems they track, they actually report to us. You must actually hold the city manager accountable. You must have the members of the mayoral committee sitting and actually analyzing, periodically, in this case, every week. Yeah. We must sit, we've got a system that is live. As you report, the mayor, and these things you must communicate to the public. You must make sure that the public have got confidence in the system that we've actually developed. Okay. Whether it's a walk-in center, whether you use various different platforms, and that is why we must then announce, we must also make our public be aware that this is a mechanism that we're actually utilizing so that they can hold us accountable. But importantly, we must go to the Izimbizo, where we actually bring this report before the public and say, if you go to Tembisa, if you go to Phosphorus, you should be able to say, these are the reported issues over a period, and this is how we've gone about actually resolving them.
One would say if you're doing the IDPs, you don't have to do all that. I mean, if you're doing those right, and within that process, you'll be able to get that information, there will be that report back, and there will be that interaction.
Well, I mean, it is a standard that these things must actually happen. You must have an IDP to collect inputs. But it is not regulated that you must go back. Of course, community meetings must happen, but it's not in the regulation. IDP is clear. It is there in terms of where you go and collect the inputs. But in the past 2.5 years, some of these community meetings have not been taken place. So that's why we're saying we are establishing, because it's not a new thing. Yeah. But we must give confidence to communities that now we're coming to you, so that tomorrow, if I walk down the streets, members of the community can ask me, you said you will have community mass meetings. Yeah. When are you having them? Because we want to hold you accountable.
So, I mean, what is going to be happening in this war room, right? Because we had a situation with one mayor in the Mangaung local municipality where they say he also established the war room, but what was happening in that war room is far from what you are describing is going to happen. There was, people tell you that there was bullying of officials and so on and so forth. There was nepotism, a selection of particular people who are coming there to be yes men to whatever the mayor says.
Well, I mean, I'm the executive mayor in Ekurhuleni. I have, the executive authority. Our communities, they expect me to act. They expect me to follow up on the issues that they've raised. And I must assure them that there is a platform that we've created, and that platform is of course, open, because we're doing it on behalf of... and I'm sure when we launch it next week, Monday, we will then indicate to our communities that we are here, and we'll have to articulate what happens in the process, because if an issue is logged, it comes to the mayor, I must dispatch an engineer at a particular depot. But do I track 24 hours that I mean, you spoke last week of issues.
Yes.
Meter, in your streets.
Yeah, that are leaking. Yeah.
That are leaking.
Yeah, and I must take responsibility. I still need to get in touch with you and forward that detail.
Of course, that's what we need to do.
Yes.
Because if those issues are not reported, they are not captured in the system, we would not be able to track them and measure the performance of the administration, the performance of the political leadership. Because ultimately what we have announced, we said there is a team of the mayoral committee. These are the commitments that we are making, and everything must therefore be assessed. Periodically, we must subject ourselves to, any organization, there's scorecards, there's KPIs. We must function as expected, and we must give our communities assurance that we're putting up necessary systems to actually get the city going forward. Because it's one thing to announce, but we are not clear about what are the mechanisms that we are putting in place. And I'm saying other systems are not necessarily, my own invention, as are worldwide practices that we must then take and make sure that are institutionalized, and there's a discipline behind them, there's a necessary oversight, there's a necessary agility. That's why we're saying we want to be responsive, but what type of a response? Because it's one thing you don't collect waste, it's a week in, week out, and there's no accountability. Yeah. And that's all what we're actually giving to our communities. Yeah.
So speaking of collecting waste, let's start there. What are you doing to clean up that particular issue of, at some point there was a question of whether there are enough trucks, or there are trucks that are not being serviced, or there are trucks that have been sold. What is the situation now as far as those wastewater trucks is concerned?
Yeah, we've announced various innovations. Firstly, we're buying additional fleet of trucks. It's already, the plans are in motion to actually get, those trucks. I think about 24 new trucks, and that is gonna, assist in the aging fleet. Secondly, we're also putting up system to monitor, including deploying, ICT, just a camera to actually check, whether you've been to the route that you've been, and including issues of basic issues like how you are driving. Yeah. Are you collecting the service points that you're supposed to be pick up? Are you picking up? It's necessary that we collect this data for purposes of planning, but also just basically to understand how our households are actually, behaving. And we think those systems will actually assist us, will go a long way to get the city, clean. One of the area has been the airspace, the landfill sites.
Landfill site. I wanted to come to that.
Are
they all open now?
We've opened Redfontaine, which actually assists to alleviate, because communities of Springs, of Kwatema, it meant that a truck will have to drive, for a long period, from the moment you pick up until you dispose. Now, if we've got enough, landfill sites, to cater for the capacity of the city, yeah, it goes a long way to keep the city clean, because it means communities are not going to be doing illegal dumping, because the waste is being collected, it does not on time. We stick to the schedule, which is very important in terms of keeping the city clean. Of course, there's various other interventions that we need to do to partner with communities to ensure that You've got some community programs where they're actually involved in keeping their city clean. But importantly, you continue to train and retrain.
All right.
Run the community awareness programs. Yeah.
Right, back live with you tonight, You're in Focus, and thanks for staying on. Dr. Nkosindiphile Xhakaza, Ekurhuleni Metro Executive Mayor, with us as he presents a new era in service delivery and sustainability for the Metro, including a number of interventions and key pillars that he'll be looking at. One of the things that you say in your State of the City address is that the EMPD, working with other security agencies, need to show no mercy to criminals. We are experiencing on a daily a deluge, really, of crime that is happening, especially in all parts of South Africa, in Ekurhuleni, because there are particular cases that we have to deal with there. There was shooting in a tavern at some point. There is the question of illegal connections. There is the question of informal settlements and the illegal mining that is happening and people running towards those informal settlements. How are you beefing up that space?
Well, I mean, one thing that we want to be doing is to identify the resources. Of course, there is a shortage of resources to ensure that we beef up our men in uniform. We've got, about just around 3,800. You can imagine. The ratio of the population and the workforce. There's clearly a shortage, but if money permits, we should be able to get more, officers properly trained in our colleges and be deployed. Of course, what we must rely on now is that we must cooperate. We must work with other, the SAPs, the provincial initiatives, great initiatives by Premier Banyaza Lusufi in terms of technology, in terms of deployment of the wardens, deployment of the cars. How do we get more integration? But importantly, the community organs. Those are important organs of people's power. There's various security organs, the community, CPF, community security. Put that type of integration and ensure that we're more responsive to actually deal with crime. We encourage about the Safe City program. We're rolling out cameras in focusing on our CBDs and various hotspots in our township to actually ensure that we keep our eye on the crime as it happens, and we actually get our respond team to be responsive as quick as possible. But of course, there are other worrying areas. The Zamazamas, our communities, but we're encouraged because the recent intervention in December, there was a huge successful operation, about 300 of the Zamazamas. And of course, we'll get updates because security information, I'm not in a position to basically communicate everything in that regard. But our communities, they know there are those interventions in those areas. In informal settlement, there's other things that are happening. There is just an issue of illegal connection, of nyoka, because there is lives that are getting lost. It's not just tampering with electricity. Kids, they get electrocuted, and we are expected by law to be making interventions, deployment of the technology into those areas, the early warning systems, because vandalism of our infrastructure, stealing of our cables, it's got a huge inconvenience in terms of our focus to keep the city lit. Right. The industrial areas consistently, we were talking last week about street lights. There are certain areas where we know, there is now traffic lights, the robots, major intersection, huge inconvenience to our communities. Consistently, they steal, they do all those things. And we're talking vandals, we're talking amapara and all that. And we have to be responsive. So it's a complex issue, but we are determined to do our part.
In the spirit of the district development model, where you're supposed to be able to see each other, talk to one another, intergovernmental interaction, and so on and so forth. There is something called TRUs, for example, in the city of Johannesburg, which they say they've introduced successfully to deal with issues like illegal mining and illegal occupation of buildings, which I believe is something that you're also having in Germiston. Not only in Germiston, but I'm sure in other parts of Ekurhuleni. But it's just not as highly reported as what one sees in the city of Johannesburg. Do you have TRUs in Ekurhuleni?
We have various units. The SWART in the EMPD, they're quite effective. They've been very instrumental to deal with high-profile cases, the CITs. They're actually the best that we are able to offer to SAPs, and we think with that type of capabilities, it is possible for us to crack down on the syndicates behind the building the hijackings of some of our buildings. I mean, if you look around the Germiston CBDs, we have to really move in there, and I have been very clear, and because I have been briefed, and we've briefed back the police, we did indicate that we have to move in there. We can't surrender to criminals in Boksburg, in Kempton Park, and that is that triangle is an economic hub. Yeah. Highest percentage of our revenue is generated, and any threats to business activities, it goes a long way to actually affect the development of our city. We have to be focusing on those areas. We have to deploy our CCTV cameras, working together with the province in terms of identifying those nodal points, but importantly, we must react. Yeah. And the private sector is also ready to come and move in with us to actually ensure that we clean up. We have a clean up. It's a long-standing decision that has not been properly followed up. And this time around, we're putting a commitment. We're saying in a short period of time, we should, hit and actually push back the syndicates.
Let's talk another follow-up. I don't know if you've given this a thought. I didn't quite read it in your State of the City address, but you will remember your not necessarily your predecessor, but your comrade when he was mayor and you were finance MMC at the time. There was talk of a similar intervention as Rea Vaya in Ekurhuleni. What has happened to that idea?
Yeah, that is the Harambe. Yeah. It's actually launched. We're very happy. The reports that we got is that we've hit over 9,000 passengers. It's servicing the communities of, I think we're now on the third phase of phase 3 that connects Tembisa, Kempton Park, to the airport, to Boksburg. And that area is actually been serviced. We're expected to add another fleet. We are communicating now with the Taxi Association Phosphorus line to actually connect the Tembisa Hospital to the Terry Mukherane Hospital. So the project is progressive very well. I mean, if you look at the infrastructure project, the trunk that where the bus must actually, beautiful. That's precisely where
I'm going, because the part of the talk was that is supposed to create employment. There'll be opportunities there, even for enterprise development and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, beautiful state-of-the-art infrastructure. I mean, if you come out of Tembisa, all the way, Klorkop, all the way to Kempton Park, you can actually see the type of engineering work that has actually happened there.
I've seen that, yes. Of course, it's the only one that I've seen. I don't know if there are many others.
Of course, we've suffered a bit of because all the lighting, the state-of-the-art lighting that we put there as you enter Tembisa to ensure that we bring life to our townships. Because this development must come with the necessary what do you call it, urban acupuncture that we actually need. But we need communities to work with us, because it's of no use that we put state-of-the-art lights, the following day they are cut down. Because it only set back the good initiatives that as government were actually driving. We're very confident, we're working very well with the National Department of Transport in terms of the timelines, but also there's cooperation from the taxi industry to actually see that the project is a success. One of the things that we'll be getting a report on now is how are the various discussions going, because we have to get another vehicle operate, because this is a form of us formalizing the taxi industry, bringing the necessary assets to them so that they get to scrap, the fleet that they are currently using, because there's lots of concern. They are not safely. We bring professionalism and a number of really, advantages in terms of, formalizing that industry and ensuring that our communities, our brothers, our sisters, those who buy taxis, they're actually brought into the formal economy. Right. So the project is progressive quite well, and the fact that is connecting Kempton Park to the airport, it goes a long way. What we're looking at in terms of the intergovernmental relation is to ensure that what is envisaged behind the project in terms of the intermodal facilities, that you must be able to link up from the BRT to the metro rail, the state-of-the-art trains that that have actually been. It's our pride, those trains, because Gibela is in Ekurhuleni. So in terms of the rail manufacturing, revitalization, it's one of the pride. Now, we must then be able to interconnect. But also, you must connect from Ekurhuleni, that's a future, to Johannesburg, to Tshwane.
Part of the smart mobility.
That's what we're talking about when we talk about the Gauteng City region. Yeah. Are you able to, through one ticket, connect, from the Harambe to the Rea Vaya, to the Tshwane? Now, one of the setback, and these are the things that we're seeking to correct, that have actually derailed development, is when there's a change of government. Those who come in, they want to rescind, a resolution to foster greater cooperation, because you can never run a municipality in Gauteng and want to be an island outside of the broader plan of the provincial government and the national government. And that's what happened in Ekurhuleni. The DA-led coalition, they came in, they rescinded, DDM resolutions, which fosters greater cooperation. Today, some of the informal settlement projects are on standstill because you are now, informal settlement, housing is a mandate of the province. Yeah. We have to prepare the land, the province must come. But if you're making it difficult for that cooperation to actually happen, it derails development. That's why where we are, we've pronounced DDM, we've pronounced a greater cooperation so that we can actually benefit. When Premier Panyaza Lusufi announces the Transformer program, in Ekurhuleni, it's been difficult for Premier to actually roll out transformers there. We're happy today because I am here. I have already announced, I've already said, Premier, come. Let's work together to actually better the lives of our people. Yeah.
One of the other things that was said, and as it reminded of it when you mentioned the fact that when a new administration comes in, of course, it would be set back, is the fact that then Mayor Nkosindiphile said Ekurhuleni is going to be the first city that is going to do expropriation without compensation. It, of course, never happened because he's no longer the mayor. But is that something that's going to be revived? Because there was a point of there are vast parts of farmland that could certainly be used.
Yeah, we are looking at, we'll have to follow up because there was, of course, a process that was undertaken by Parliament. We're waiting some green lights. We'll have to follow up and see how far. But really the passion behind the program was that we've got pieces of land that are owned by us, by the state, who are making available those pieces of land either for human settlements development, but importantly for industry, to grow our economy. We're calling on the private sector. There's a strategic land, come, let's partner. We want to see a Retropolis, want to see development in Ekurhuleni. But there are also pieces of land that are owned are in private hands. And they lie there idling over a long, extended period of time. You can't track the owners of those assets. They are not paying for rates and services because you can't track them. Now, what are the available legislated, platforms that we can actually leverage on to take these pieces of land and make them available to those who want to actually sweat those pieces of land? Because, there's so much that we need to do. There's just to drive an economic development program, you need access to land, and there's prime lands that remains underutilized, and that was really the drive at the time. We'll have to revisit that because the position of the movement is still clear in the region. There is a resolution that says let's look into these pieces of land, and really, if the owners are not coming up, there are pieces of land where development application are long approved. The city has been ready in terms of putting the bulk services, but the development is not moving for no reason. You can't bank on the much needed land. That is the argument, because it is a critical asset to drive development.
All right. Let's take one question on WhatsApp, 072-110-584. Anonymous wanting to know what has happened to the fleet of the EMPD, since the officers are using their private vehicles to conduct law enforcement.
Yeah, we'll have to get a report into that. What we know is that there is fleet. We've heard of instances where it is alleged that some officers are forced to utilize their own vehicles, and I think it's something that we'll have to get a report on. If there's a shortage of vehicles, we'll have to look at how do you prioritize other spending to actually ensure that we refresh the fleet. There's competing priorities really, Thabo, in terms of what is it that we can do. Just now we're talking about waste.
Yeah.
That the fleet is aging.
Yeah.
And it's something that we've also emphasized on the speech. Pillar number 2 is our determination to conduct the necessary repairs and maintenance to all public facilities. That also includes the refreshing or replacement of the fleet. And that is why we're also saying at pillar number 3, we must build must rebuild, because once had a strong financial base, and there's certain things that we need to do to actually rebuild that strong financial base, so that we're able to then conduct these repairs and maintenance. We're able to refresh, our fleet.
So you speak of competing priorities. Talk to me about how you came up with the list of so-called mayoral priorities that would reside in your office.
Well, these are critical issues that we think we had to elevate. Of course, everything is important. It's a big city. It's more than the latest institutional review, 16 departments. There's quite a lot that is happening, but we have to demonstrate, because we've listened to our communities. Our experiences also tells us that one, the war room, we must announce it. It must be understood by everybody that we need to be responsive. We need the necessary agility. We can't compromise on the quality of the work, and that the mayor will now chair. And every Monday we look into the specific issues of quality. 2, the CAPEX war room will have to make sure that we also monitor. We do the outreach to actually see on the ground that the work is happening. We'll have to look at the mega projects, human settlements project. We had 16 mega human settlements. We knew we had 119 former settlements. We have about 164 households with about 600,000 inhabitants that are making up those informal settlements. We had designed for everyone. But those projects, as we end up Phosphorus, one of the Phosphorus Extension 9, beautifully done, but it has come to a standstill because there's not been proper leadership. We'll have to move in there and make sure that we sort out issues of beneficiary administration. We actually get the beneficiary, because before those houses are actually invaded. In Tembisa, just behind the Tembisa Hospital, Extension 25, beautiful project there has come to a standstill. We'll have to reinstate IGR and make sure that we we encourage more cooperation with the province so that we get them to assist us to unlock some of the challenges onto that project. That is the area of focus. We have announced in the economic development, strategic land parcel that we must release to industry. For some time, we've appetized the market. Investors, you can see along the R21 corridor, various development, the inland port, to expand on the Prasa Gibela.
Yes.
And there's various pieces of land that we said, these pieces of land were ready, both brownfields and greenfield. I mean, the Jimistin Lake, all those pieces of asset. We must move in and actually release those assets so that we actually get the private sector to participate. The issue of the clean audit, Operation Clean Audit, we've lost it just recently, simply because of, it's got to do with conduct. Because once you don't appreciate what the Chapter 9 institution is doing, you don't cooperate, it becomes a problem. Now, we must rise and make sure that if information is needed, we make that information available. And that is a commitment that we've made. We said by the end of June, we must clear all the issues that we raised so that 1st of July, when we start fully our financial year, we don't have these issues, and we encourage more cooperation and relationship with the AG. So these are the type of things that we really have lifted and said, these are, and I'm mentioning just a few.
Yes.
There's quite a list. There's quite a few of them because we think, I mean, the issue of the university, for instance, when was the last time you had, any political
highlighted in a while.
saying anything? Yes. And our communities, I mean, the president, they've agreed, Department of Higher Education, they've put up a committee that looks at this. But for us, it's not just about the university structure. We use the university as a critical development to actually stimulate the future cities that we want. Because university is a new community. It's got a lot of spin-offs. If we lose focus, Department of Higher Education, they'll go ahead.
Yes.
We're no longer there as a city to drive and mobilize all stakeholders to actually rally behind this university and makes it real to actually drive the city. Now, these are some of the things that we thought we must elevate them and communicate to our communities that these are some of the flagship projects that we really want to pay attention to. In the next 100 days, we will then be announcing in greater detail our 100-day program because we think there's quite a number of things that we need to unlock to actually get the city going. And these are the things that we'll invite you.
Yeah,
this is 100 days so that we
can engage with them a little bit more.
Yeah, you continue to keep an eye on the mayor, that the mayor must always keep an eye on the ball.
Absolutely. Mayor, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for spending this evening.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Mayor of the city of Ekurhuleni, Dr. Nkosindiphile Xhakaza.